Retirement on a shoestring budget is a reality for tens of millions of Americans. This is a follow-up to a recent video I did for a woman who at age 60 had nothing saved for retirement due to a long-term illness and was able to build up enough money over 7 years' time to be able to comfortably retire at 67. The one complaint I got about that video across several mediums and from several people was that her income of $150,000 a year was just too high and not really applicable to most Americans. And so I've decided to redo the calculations with a much lower income to see if it's indeed possible to save if you start at age 60 with zero, retire at 67, and have enough money to retire with a lower income. So stay with me. So I am at my computer and I'm going to walk you through the scenario of someone who's earning less than $150,000 a year, considerably less than $150,000 a year. This individual in this scenario is earning $85,000 a year. Now, I know $85,000 a year is still well above the median American income of about $60,000 a year, but I wanted to put it more in the realm of possibility for more Americans. And people tend to earn more money towards the end of their career than towards the beginning. So it is a possibility that someone starting at age 60 with zero is earning $85,000 a year in America. I set inflation at 3%. Now, we've just come off a round of inflation with COVID. Inflation typically comes in twos. So personally, I think there is another round of inflation that will come. And as long as the average inflation stays at 3%, this scenario works. It becomes a problem when inflation rises above 3%. Even like 4 or 5%, everyone's retirement plan basically has to be redone at that point. And probably at 5%, more than 90% of all retirement plans across all income levels fail. It's just inflation is too high to retire at that point, and people have to continue working. Historically, we've had about 2% inflation, but I always do my retirement projections at 3% inflation as a way to stress test the portfolio. Now, the other person who was earning $150,000 a year had a full retirement age Social Security of $3,700 a month. I received a lot of feedback that that was not realistic. The average Social Security check in America is $1,974. So I decided to bring down this person's Social Security to about $1,700 a month. I'm also giving this person a pretty generous match. They have a 401k plan at their place of employment, and their employer has agreed to give them 6%. That's actually coming in a little bit high. Most employers don't necessarily give a 6% match. Many employers don't even have a 401k, but I want to give this person at least one advantage, which is a strong, healthy matching program and a 401k plan in place at their employer. Now, this individual follows the same formula as the person earning $150,000 a year. They're basically going to save 1/3 of their money and they're going to spend the other 2/3 on living expenses. 1/3 of 85,000 is about $28,000 that they're going to dedicate to investing to save for their retirement starting at age 60. The other $57,000 a year, they're going to use that in order to cover living expenses. Can you live in America on $57,000 a year? Possibly. It can be tight in many parts of the country. Bay Area, you would not be able to live on $57,000 a year. Many of the major cities, no. But if you're in a smaller city or if you're in a more suburban or rural area and you are frugal and you are good with managing your money, that roughly would probably be in the ballpark of about $4,000 a month in your pocket. The average one-bedroom apartment is $1,500 a month. So it's possible, but I think for many Americans, it's just not probable. When you have credit card debt, when you have mortgages, when you have car debt, when you have kids, when you have other things going on in your life, $4,000 doesn't really go very far. I'm also just going to assume that this person is single. It's more complicated when you add a spouse, but let's say single person, age 60, hasn't saved a penny for retirement, will commit to working till age 67, $1,700 full retirement age, Social Security, and they are committed to saving 1/3 every year for the next 7 years so they can build up a nest egg for retirement. So let's take a look at the numbers. Oh, one more thing before the big reveal of the numbers. The person who earned $150,000 a year, we use the traditional IRA, we use the Roth 401k, we use the brokerage account. We're basically moving across 3 different accounts. I'm basically only focusing on the traditional 401k for this person. Reason being, they're going to retire to a pretty low tax bracket. I do believe taxes will be considerably higher in the future. I do believe taxes will be higher in the future. But for simplicity's sake, and this person's going to be relatively low or moderate income in retirement, we're just going to do everything in the traditional 401k, and they'll have to pay taxes out of it when they take that money out for retirement. So let's look at the numbers. Okay, so they started at age 60 in 2025, and the 80-20 portfolio here is based on the S&P 500 index fund. This is roughly equivalent to 2003 returns. I'm looking at historical returns here. And an 80-20 portfolio returned almost 22% that year. So this person's going to plunk down their 28,000. Their employer is going to plunk down their 5,100, and they're going to see good returns going into year 2. They're crushing it. They're going to put in another 28,000. Their employer is going to do another 5,100. They're going to get good returns in the market. They're feeling really good at this point. So by year 3, once again, they're putting in 28,000. Their employer is putting in 5,100. They've already blown past the $100,000 mark. That's a really important milestone for most people saving for retirement. And some people never cross that threshold in their retirement accounts. So they're feeling pretty confident. They're feeling pretty good. They're building up momentum. And by year 3, they're already pushed past the $100,000 mark. So 63, 64, good years, by the end of their 64th year of life, they're almost at 200,000. They're doing pretty good. But then this is equivalent to 2008. And in 2008, the 80-20 portfolio lost about 30%. So this happens in their portfolio, and it's a big setback and a big disappointment because they had so much forward momentum and they were doing so well. This is where the person has to stay the course. And I know it sucks to stay the course when the market is down, but you still got to put in your $28,000 anyway. Your employer has to put in their $5,000, and you have to commit to this retirement plan and know that this will work out. So this is where the financial advisor comes in and says, stay the course. And, we convince them to continue putting away this money. And good thing that they did, because 2009, the market returned almost 21%. So by this time, they've crossed the 200,000 threshold. And by the time they're 67, this is 2010 market returns, they have close to 300,000 saved for retirement. So at 67, this is when they decide that they're going to retire. They put in notice at work. They start looking at their 401k balance, and they decide that they are going to start taking their Social Security. And this is actually wrong. This is the monthly draw or the annual draw. Okay, so this is their overall 401k balance. This is what we're going to draw out of the 401k account on the annual basis. This is their monthly draw from the 401k plus the Social Security, and this is probably what they'll deal with after tax. So we're able to get to this person to $4,000 a month after tax, approximately. It may be less money if they're in a high tax state like New York or California, maybe more money if they live in a state with no income tax, like let's say they move to Nevada, or they move to, I don't know, Alaska or someplace that has no state income tax. But we can get them to about $4,000 a month for retirement to cover their living expenses. Now, can a retiree live on $4,000 a month? Possibly. It's a very narrow ledge to walk, right? Because things are expensive and things are getting more expensive, right? And you have to deal with the spectra of inflation coming through all of these years and coming to this amount. So $295 today is not going to be $295 7 years from now, right? This is going to be it's going to have lesser purchasing power several years from now. Okay. So, this $4,000 today is not going to be $4,000 7 or 8 years from now. It's going to have less purchasing power. It's possible. It's a very narrow ledge to walk. If anything goes wrong, if anything goes sideways, really unexpected high expenses one year because of bills, because of medical issues, or really bad market performance for consecutive years in the row, and this person is knocked out the box. So they're walking a pretty narrow ledge, and I'm sure they can feel it. They understand that they're walking a pretty narrow ledge. But we're just going to go forward and see how this turns out for the person. So they're going to retire, and when they're 67, they're going to get $4,000 a month. Okay. I wanted to give them a little bit more of a draw to account for inflation. I did not do a cost of living increase for Social Security in this. And I know that this would make the numbers look brighter, but the cost of living factor is different every year based on inflation and based on a host of factors. So it's virtually impossible to figure out. So I'm playing this conservative. I'm not factoring in the cost of living increase, but just know it's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of this. So the second year, the person is 68, they're going to take out 37,800 from their 401k because they're going to factor in inflation. I'm still giving them $1,700 a month for their Social Security. I'm going to say they're going to end up with about $4,100 a month. So they're doing fine until probably, I'm going to say age 78, 79, 80 is where they're going to run out of money. Now, the average life expectancy of the average American is about 78. For women, it may be different for different geographies. Whether you live in different states, your life expectancy may be different, and different income levels. Your life expectancy is different. Different races, your life expectancy is different. Different genders, women live longer than men. It's different, but average 78, 79, 80 is the average age of death. This person probably, their last check will bounce if they haven't already run out of money. If this person has longevity in their family, or if this person lives beyond about 78, they're going to run into big problems probably pretty quickly, and they're only going to have their Social Security to depend on. Now, only having your Social Security to depend on, it makes retirement unnavigable, especially as a single person. There are tens of millions of Americans that are retiring or are already retired and only live on Social Security, but they may be married. So maybe their spouse has a Social Security, they have a Social Security, maybe they have a pension, maybe they have, some other asset like rental income or something like that that's just not factored into this. It's a very fine line to walk, and there's not much room for problems and failures that eventually come up in everyone's life. Personally, I think this person is going to start running out of money probably a few years earlier, probably around age 77. So we were able to give this person a retirement. We were able to get them out of the workforce at age 67, which was their goal. But ideally, to fix this or to make this a little bit better, I would love to see this person work longer. I would love to see this person retire at age 70 instead of retiring at age 67. Depending on this person's categorization for work, I don't know, what this person is doing. If maybe they're doing a cushy desk job, maybe doing 3 more years may not be a big deal. But if they're working, they're a roofer. They're not going to be getting up on roofs at age 70. Some people are very amiable to putting in a few more years of work, and some people are dead set against it. But this person really would benefit from extending their work career by 3 additional years. And they probably would be able to extend their Social Security and their 401k account until their early 80s. Maybe they would run out of money at maybe 83 or 84 at that point if they really watch their pennies, have good returns, and have good money management in the 401k account. So, there you have it. That's the numbers for someone who is earning less than $150,000 a year. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you like and tell me what you don't like. If you found this information useful, please do like, share, and subscribe. I want this information to get out to as many Americans as possible as they plan for their retirement.